There is something most physicians will not bring up during a routine checkup. Not because they are withholding information, but because the conversation about hydration and aging tends to stay shallow. Drink 8 glasses a day. Stay hydrated. That is usually where it ends. But what I want to share with you today goes much deeper than that, and it has the potential to change how you feel every single morning from the moment you open your eyes. Because here is the truth that the standard advice leaves out entirely. After the age of 60, the way your body processes and responds to water changes in ways that are genuinely significant. Not minor, not gradual in a way you can ignore. Significant. Your blood becomes measurably thicker. Your vessel walls become stiffer and less responsive. And a molecule called nitric oxide, which is responsible for keeping your arteries and capillaries open, relaxed, and able to deliver blood freely to every corner of your body, drops to a fraction of what it was when you were in your 40s. Plain water does not fix this. Not because water is the wrong thing to drink, but because the aging cardiovascular system does not simply need to be hydrated. It needs to be activated. There is a difference, and understanding that difference is what today is about. During my years of research into circulatory health and aging, I came across findings that genuinely surprised me. Scientists studying blood flow in adults over 60 discovered that a specific and targeted modification to how water is consumed, not a supplement protocol, not a medication, produced measurable improvements in blood flow in as little as 20 minutes. Blood viscosity dropped. Capillary response improved. People whose hands and feet had been cold and sluggish for years began experiencing warmth returning to their extremities. And yet almost none of this information reaches the people who need it most. What I want to walk you through today are 5 hydration strategies, ranked from genuinely helpful to what I would describe as life-changing, that are built directly on circulatory science and designed specifically for the biology of adults over 60. Each one works through a different mechanism. Each one builds on the one before it. And by the time we reach the first strategy, the most powerful one, I think you will understand your own body in a way that changes how you approach every single morning going forward. But first, 60 seconds of biology, because this context makes everything else make sense. Inside the walls of every blood vessel in your body, from the largest arteries to the smallest capillaries, there's a thin single-cell layer called the endothelium. Think of it as the intelligent interior lining of your entire vascular network. When you are young, this lining is extraordinarily responsive. It reads changes in pressure, movement, and chemistry and releases nitric oxide to relax and widen the vessel walls on demand, allowing blood to flow freely and efficiently. After 60, 3 things happen simultaneously, and nobody warns you about any of them. Nitric oxide production drops by close to 50% compared to your 30s. Your red blood cells lose a portion of their flexibility, making it harder for them to navigate through the narrowest capillaries. And the volume of blood plasma naturally decreases, which makes the blood itself slightly thicker and more difficult to move. This triple combination is why so many people over 60 drink their 8 glasses of water faithfully every day and still wake up with cold hands, swollen ankles, a fog in the brain that settles in by mid-afternoon, dizziness when they stand up too quickly, and that heavy, leaden fatigue in the legs that no amount of rest seems to fully resolve. The water is there. The circulatory response is not. So everything I am about to share has one purpose: to transform plain hydration into something your blood vessels actually register and respond to. We begin with the 5th strategy, which is simple enough to start tomorrow and effective enough to produce noticeable changes within a week for most people. It starts with a question almost nobody asks. What temperature is the water you are drinking right now? Most people reach instinctively for cold water, especially in warmer weather. It feels refreshing. It feels clean. And for someone in their 30s with elastic, responsive vessels, cold water is completely fine. But here is what happens inside the body of someone over 60 when cold water, particularly water below about 50 degrees Fahrenheit, hits the stomach. The body triggers a mild but real vasoconstrictive response. The blood vessels narrow briefly, as your system works to raise the temperature of the incoming fluid to match your core temperature. For young people with supple, pliable arteries, this is barely noticeable and resolves almost immediately. For older adults with already stiffened arteries, this constriction can temporarily reduce peripheral blood flow for up to 20 minutes. Now multiply that response by 6, 7, 8 glasses a day, every day across years, and you begin to see the cumulative picture. The correction is almost embarrassingly simple. Switch to warm or room temperature water, ideally somewhere between 98 and 105 degrees Fahrenheit, which is close to your body's own internal temperature. Studies in vascular physiology have shown that water consumed at near body temperature passes through the stomach more efficiently, reduces the digestive demand placed on surrounding blood vessels, and does not trigger the constriction reflex. Now, take that one step further. Dissolve approximately 100 milligrams of magnesium glycinate powder into 12 ounces of warm water and drink it first thing in the morning, before coffee, before food, before anything else. Magnesium is not optional for vascular health. It is literally required for your endothelial cells to produce nitric oxide. And the research consistently shows that close to 70% of adults over 60 are chronically deficient in magnesium, which means the vast majority of people are trying to circulate blood through vessels that are missing the one mineral those vessels need to relax and open. Warm magnesium water first thing in the morning is the foundational upgrade. And for most people, the changes in energy and warmth in the extremities show up within the first week. The fourth strategy takes things into territory that most people overlook entirely, and it involves a drink many of you are already consuming. The question is not what you drink, but when, because timing has a biological impact that is every bit as powerful as ingredients. Consider what happens to your body overnight. While you sleep, you lose between 16 and 24 ounces of fluid just through breathing and gentle perspiration. By the time you wake up, your blood is measurably more viscous than it was when you fell asleep. This is one of the primary reasons that cardiovascular events, such as heart attacks and strokes, are statistically most likely to occur between 6 and 10 in the morning. The blood is thicker. The vessels are stiffer from hours of reduced circulation. The system is under mechanical stress. Most people respond to this by immediately drinking coffee, which is a mild diuretic, or by skipping fluids entirely until they eat something. Both responses are working directly against your circulation during the most vulnerable window of your entire day. Here is where green tea becomes relevant, and not simply because it is popular in wellness circles. Green tea contains a compound called EGCG, epigallocatechin gallate, which directly stimulates the enzyme your endothelial cells use to produce nitric oxide. It has also been shown to reduce a protein called endothelin-1, which is one of the most potent vasoconstrictors the body naturally produces, one of the primary molecular forces keeping vessels tight and narrow. Research published in a major European nutrition journal found that EGCG directly and measurably improves vascular responsiveness in older adults. The protocol for this strategy is straightforward. Upon waking, before anything else, drink 12 ounces of warm plain water to immediately begin thinning the blood and restoring plasma volume. 15 to 20 minutes later, drink 1 cup of moderately brewed green tea with a small squeeze of fresh lemon. The lemon contributes vitamin C, which protects nitric oxide from being oxidized and destroyed before it reaches the vessel walls, and it slightly acidifies the tea in a way that improves absorption of EGCG in the gut. A study using a similar morning rehydration and green tea protocol showed a 21% improvement in flow-mediated dilation, which is the gold standard clinical measurement of how well blood vessels open and respond. 21% improvement from timing and a cup of tea. The biology is real. The third strategy genuinely surprised me when I first encountered the research because it involves one of the most effective natural vasodilators ever studied in humans sitting inside one of the most ordinary summer fruits available. Watermelon. Specifically, the amino acid L-citrulline, found in its highest concentration in the white rind of the fruit, the part most people discard without a second thought. L-citrulline is a precursor to L-arginine, which is the direct raw material your body, uses to synthesize nitric oxide. There's a well-known supplement called L-arginine that many people take for circulation. But here is a critical limitation that most people are never told. Oral L-arginine supplements have poor absorption in older adults because a significant portion is broken down by intestinal enzymes before it ever reaches the bloodstream. L-citrulline bypasses this problem entirely. It absorbs efficiently through the gut, converts to L-arginine in the kidneys, completely sidestepping the intestinal degradation problem, and is then used to produce nitric oxide directly inside the blood vessels where it is needed. A landmark study published in a major hypertension research journal found that regular L-citrulline consumption produced significant reductions in arterial stiffness and improved blood pressure readings, particularly in women past menopause and men over 60. To apply this practically, blend 1 to 2 cups of fresh watermelon, including as much of the white rind as you can tolerate, with 8 ounces of cold water into a simple juice. No sweetener needed. Add a small pinch of sea salt for electrolyte balance and a squeeze of fresh lime juice for complementary flavonoids. Drink this mid-morning, approximately 90 minutes after your green tea, or about 2 hours before any physical activity. The nitric oxide boost peaks roughly 60 to 90 minutes after consumption. Timing it before a walk or gentle movement creates a compounding effect where your vessels are already dilated and responsive when exercise begins. Research has shown that older adults who combine citrulline-rich hydration with modest physical activity experience significantly greater improvements in endothelial function than from either approach alone. Many people report warmth spreading through their hands and feet within an hour. Some notice that the afternoon energy drop they had accepted as normal begins arriving later or stops appearing altogether. That is not coincidence. That is circulation improving. The second strategy is the one that made researchers reconsider the entire conventional model of circulation and aging. Most conversations about cardiovascular health focus on cholesterol and blood pressure. But there's a third factor that is equally important and almost never discussed in the context of daily hydration. It is microvascular inflammation. The tiny capillaries, the smallest blood vessels in the body, some thinner than a single strand of hair, are responsible for delivering oxygen directly to your tissues, your brain, your muscle fibers, your skin, your organs. When chronic inflammation builds inside the walls of those vessels, they lose their ability to dilate and respond. They narrow, they stiffen, blood flow to the extremities slows. The brain receives less oxygen. Healing takes longer. Energy collapses. And here is what makes this particularly difficult. This microvascular inflammation is largely invisible. You do not feel it as pain or discomfort directly. You feel only its consequences. Brain fog, heavy legs, cold hands and feet, poor sleep, slow recovery from even mild physical effort. Symptoms that most physicians attribute simply to aging, when in fact they are symptoms of inflammation inside the smallest vessels of your body. Research across multiple cardiovascular centers has identified a compound that specifically targets inflammation inside those microvascular walls with remarkable precision. That compound is anthocyanin, and the single most concentrated dietary source of anthocyanin available is tart cherries, specifically the Montmorency variety, not the sweet cherries found in most grocery stores. A clinical study following 60 adults between the ages of 65 and 80 who consumed 8 ounces of tart cherry juice daily for 12 weeks found a 34% reduction in systemic inflammatory markers, a 27% improvement in capillary blood flow velocity, and a measurable reduction in arterial stiffness that researchers described as equivalent to reversing approximately 6 years of vascular aging. 6 years. From a daily glass of juice. Now combine tart cherry juice with freshly grated ginger, and something further happens. Ginger contains a compound called 6-gingerol, which acts as a natural calcium channel modulator in the smooth muscle cells that surround blood vessel walls. In practical terms, it helps those walls physically relax. Multiple peer-reviewed studies have confirmed that ginger's vasodilatory effect is most pronounced in small vessels and capillaries, precisely the vessels most affected by the aging process. To prepare this evening elixir, combine 6 to 8 ounces of pure tart cherry juice with 12 ounces of warm water, 1 teaspoon of freshly grated ginger or half a teaspoon of high-quality ginger powder, and a small pinch of black pepper, which has been shown to dramatically enhance ginger's absorption through the digestive tract. Drink this in the early evening, roughly 2 hours before bed. The timing is deliberate. The anti-inflammatory compounds in tart cherry, combined with naturally occurring melatonin precursors, work synergistically with your body's overnight tissue repair processes. Your cardiovascular system does much of its cellular maintenance in the early morning hours while you sleep, providing it with concentrated anti-inflammatory nutrients before sleep primes those repair pathways. Most people who commit to this evening ritual report waking within the second week with noticeably warmer hands and feet. They also typically report improved sleep quality, which independently is one of the most powerful long-term protectors of cardiovascular health you can have. Now we come to the first strategy, the most powerful one, the one that, once you understand the mechanism behind it, ties everything we have discussed into a single coherent picture. I want to ask for just a moment of your attention on the science here, because this mechanism is foundational and it will change how you see everything else. Inside your blood vessels right now, there's a constant silent competition happening. On one side, your endothelial cells are producing nitric oxide, the molecule that keeps vessels relaxed, open, and capable of delivering blood efficiently. On the other side, a class of molecules called reactive oxygen species, what scientists refer to as oxidative stress, is destroying that nitric oxide before it can do its work. Imagine trying to fill a bathtub while the drain is fully open. You can pour water in continuously, or in this case, produce nitric oxide continuously, but if it is being destroyed faster than it is being created, the tub never fills. Circulation never improves. This is the precise situation inside the blood vessels of most people over 60. The body is trying to produce enough nitric oxide, but the chemistry working against it is winning. The discovery that changed this conversation in cardiovascular research was the finding that molecular hydrogen, the simplest molecule in existence, is one of the most selective and effective antioxidants ever identified. Unlike conventional antioxidants such as vitamin C or vitamin E, which neutralize oxidative molecules broadly and indiscriminately, molecular hydrogen specifically targets the most destructive reactive oxygen species, particularly hydroxyl radicals, and a molecule called peroxynitrite, while leaving the beneficial oxidative molecules your body actually needs completely intact. And the key insight for circulation is this. Peroxynitrite is the specific molecule most responsible for breaking down nitric oxide inside blood vessel walls. It is the open drain. Neutralizing it means more nitric oxide survives long enough to reach the vessel walls and do its job. Research from Japanese institutions, where hydrogen water science has been advancing for over 2 decades, found that regular consumption of hydrogen-rich water in older adults produced measurable increases in circulating nitric oxide levels, not because the body was producing more, but because far less was being destroyed. A controlled trial published in a prominent aging research journal showed that adults between 65 and 80 who consumed hydrogen-rich water daily for 8 weeks experienced a 31% increase in flow-mediated dilation, a 24% reduction in oxidized LDL cholesterol, meaningful improvements in physical capacity, and significantly reduced markers of vascular inflammation. Hydrogen water devices are available and becoming increasingly affordable. But if you want to achieve a comparable effect today using ingredients from any grocery store, here is the protocol that combines everything from all 5 strategies into a single powerful morning ritual. Call it the nitric oxide activation drink. And here is why it works unlike anything else you have tried. Start with 12 to 16 ounces of warm or room temperature water. Add 1/4 teaspoon of magnesium glycinate powder. Add 1 tablespoon of pure pomegranate juice, not from concentrate. Pomegranate contains a class of compounds called punicalagins, which have been shown in multiple studies to both increase nitric oxide production and block the enzyme that degrades it, attacking the problem from both directions at once. Add half a teaspoon of organic beet powder. Beets are the most concentrated dietary source of inorganic nitrates available, which are converted to nitric oxide through a pathway involving your saliva and digestive system, essentially providing a direct nitric oxide deposit into your bloodstream. Add a small pinch, approximately 1/8 of a teaspoon, of vitamin C powder to protect the nitric oxide produced from being oxidized before it reaches the vessel walls. And now, the final step, the one most people skip without realizing how much it matters. Take a small sip of this drink and hold it in your mouth for 3 to 5 seconds before swallowing. Here's the reason this matters so much. The first step in converting dietary nitrates into bioavailable nitric oxide does not happen in the stomach or in the bloodstream. It happens in your mouth through nitrate-reducing bacteria that live on your tongue and in your saliva. Holding the drink briefly in your mouth before swallowing activates this conversion pathway, meaningfully increasing the amount of nitric oxide your body extracts from the same drink. Studies comparing people who consumed beet juice normally to those who held it briefly in the mouth before swallowing found nearly a 40% difference in blood nitric oxide levels afterward. Same ingredients, same quantity, completely different outcome based on one small habit. Drink this first thing in the morning, immediately after your 12 ounces of plain warm water. Then, within 30 to 45 minutes, take a 10 to 15-minute gentle walk. Even slow, unhurried walking increases what is called shear stress on the inner walls of blood vessels, which is a mechanical signal that tells endothelial cells to release additional nitric oxide. You are combining a chemical activation signal from the drink with a mechanical activation signal from movement, and the results are genuinely synergistic in a way that neither achieves independently. Research from one of the world's leading dietary nitrate science laboratories found that this exact pairing, dietary nitrate combined with low-intensity movement, produced circulatory improvements in older adults that were comparable to those seen with pharmaceutical vasodilators in short-term clinical testing, and produced them without a single adverse effect. People who follow this protocol consistently across 30 days report changes that do not feel subtle. Warmth returning to hands and feet that have been cold for years. The heavy, tired sensation in the legs after prolonged standing beginning to dissolve. Mental clarity in the afternoons that have been absent for so long they had stopped expecting it. Some report that the dizziness upon standing quickly, a condition called orthostatic hypotension that is common and genuinely dangerous in older adults, either improves significantly or disappears entirely. Because in many cases, that dizziness was not a medication issue. It was not simply aging. It was a nitric oxide deficiency, a circulation problem, and targeted hydration, applied with an understanding of the biology, addresses that problem at its source. When these 5 strategies are used together, even rotating through them across the week rather than using all 5 every single day, they address circulation from 5 completely distinct biological angles. Warm magnesium water removes the mineral deficiency that prevents the endothelium from producing nitric oxide in the first place. The green tea morning protocol reduces the vasoconstrictive pressure during the highest risk cardiovascular window of your day. The watermelon and citrulline drink bypasses the absorption problem that makes standard supplements ineffective and delivers a clean nitric oxide precursor through a more efficient pathway. The evening tart cherry and ginger elixir fights the microvascular inflammation that silently stiffens capillaries overnight and primes the body's repair systems while you sleep. And the morning activation drink attacks the nitric oxide problem from 3 directions simultaneously, increasing production, protecting what is produced, and pairing it with movement for a compounding effect the body responds to within weeks. None of these require a prescription. None of them require expensive or difficult-to-find ingredients. And every single one of them is grounded in peer-reviewed cardiovascular and nutritional science, not trend-based wellness advice. One important note, and I say this because I take it seriously, these strategies are genuinely powerful, and that power means they can interact with existing treatments. If you're currently taking blood pressure medications or blood thinners, Improving your circulation naturally can sometimes mean your existing dosages need to be reviewed. Please have an open conversation with your physician or cardiologist as you begin incorporating these changes. Tell them what you are adding and why. Good medical communication is not a formality. It is part of the strategy working correctly and safely. Here is the single most important idea to carry with you from everything shared today. After 60, your body does not need less support for circulation. It needs smarter support. Plain water hydrates, yes, but strategic hydration built on an understanding of what the aging cardiovascular system actually requires activates. It signals. It restores. There's a profound difference between those two things. You now know what that difference looks like, and more importantly, you know exactly how to act on it starting tomorrow morning.